one of you asked me viewership of India or viewership globally. Not even one of you asked me viewership across all age demography or a certain age demography that you are looking at. When you sit for a company like data science or a consult or a product development or a project management, you'll get problem statements like this. And if you get into the solution part of it, then you will be rejected instantly because you did not invest time in the problem at all. If I tell you that the viewership of video needs to be increased only for India for an age category of 55 years and above. Now you see it is so clear and it is so well concentrated and located problem statement. What you have on the screen is a very, very broad statement. You don't even know the head and tail of it, and neither did you try to look for it. And exactly this will happen in a data science or a consult or a problem solving or a product development interview. They will give you a problem statement which doesn't have a head and tail, and instead of solving it, they will first try to see whether you're looking for the head and tail of the problem or not. If not, no matter what your solution is, you will be rejected because you're not investing a lot of time in the problem itself. So whenever you are into a problem solving mode, instead of being the hyper mode to be a solver, be a little hyper towards problem also. Try to locate the problem and then go about the solution. I'm sure you'll come up with a fantastic, even more focused and concentrated solution when you exactly have pinpointed the problem. So if you are setting up for a data science or a consult or a product development or any kind of questions where it's a problem solving question, sit back. It's absolutely fine to ask the interviewer, sir, when you said YouTube, do you mean globally or India? I will say India. Okay. Sir, when you said viewership, do you mean the videos or do you mean the ads? I will say videos. You are making your points. Keep a pen and paper with you. Sir, when you say India, do you mean across all age demography or a certain age demography that you're looking at? I'll say 55 years and above. So now the problem statement is increase the viewership of Indians who are 55 years and above for YouTube videos. Fantastic. Here it is. Better thumbnails, old serials, more content about health, spirituality, meditation, and maybe create groups, which is an oldie group because they tend to hang around pretty well, and things like that can be done. Now, a lot of time what happens is that more often than not people clear the technical round but fail in the HR round, which is where we are giving another framework called 22 yards. Now, failing the HR round is like this. Clearing the technical round is like hitting him and him for a six, and failing in HR round is giving your wicket to him. Now, if you don't hit Bumrah and Shami for a six, I'm absolutely comfortable if you get out by Kedar Jadhav. But if you're hitting them for a six, you're not allowed to get out by Kedar Jadhav. But failing an HR round is exactly like that. An HR round, typically, what we have created is that, as I said, I have been coming to your campus since 2009, so I've got quite a lot of industry friends, and we do collections for everything. At Cantilever Labs, we do training program for product development, data science, consulting, finance, quant finance, aptitude, soft skills, and we have created fantastic content, fantastic curated content for that. One of the important things that we do in HR interview is the HR round. That how do you prepare for HR round? So typically, when I asked my industry friends and we started making the collection, I had a collection of 160 questions. If I give you 160 questions, you will never read them in your life, neither will I. So I don't think that was right. From 160, we came down to 50. From 50, we located it down to 22 questions. These 22 HR questions, you should definitely know, which we have created a toolkit, which is called 22 yards. As I said, we are connected to sports. You should definitely know these 22 questions and you be ready with it always, because it's not only about the upcoming placements or internship interviews. 5 years down the line also, the HR questions fundamentally will not change a lot because culture of the company will not change a lot, and that's what is tested in HR now. You should definitely be very well prepared as far as these questions are concerned. And the interesting part about HR round is when someone is coaching you for cricket, he or she tells you which ball to hit. But a very important part of coaching lesson also is to know which ball to leave. A lot of time the coaches don't tend to tell you which ball to leave. But it's very important that you should know which ball to leave and which ball to hit. And that is what exactly what we are doing as far as 22 yards toolkit is concerned. Now, the game or the battle will always be against right, wrong answer versus good and bad answer. In technical interview, you might have a right answer or a wrong answer. But in an HR interview, you don't have a right or a wrong answer. You have a good answer or a bad answer. And I'll tell you what, every right answer might not be a good answer, and every wrong answer might not be a bad answer. And you should be very, very clear on this. Technically, you need to be right in technical round, and as far as HR round, you need to give a good answer or a bad answer. Now, how exactly do you do that? For example, I'll tell you the puzzle of HR round is, why should we select you is the question? Or, what are your strengths? Or, between you and Virat, we have to select one, why should it be you? Or, what makes you think that you can take the rigor of our industry? If you actually see, all the four are same questions. You only have to talk about your strength in one way or the other in all the four questions. But this is how life gets puzzled up by HRs. It's like this. It's a multiple choice question and you have to pick one which is the right answer. But all of them are looking practically the same. I'll tell you something very interesting as far as this is concerned. There's a very interesting 80-20 rule of every interviews that you take or an interview conduct. And the rule goes like this. If your resume is good, then 80% of the questions will be from the resume and 20% questions will be from outside the resume. Your resume has the power to control and drive your interview. But if your resume is bad, then the 80-20 rule still holds. Only the order changes. 20% questions from the resume and 80% from outside the resume. Now the problem with outside the resume is like this. I can ask you a question, please explain your project in simple language, which I told you earlier in this presentation, and you are strong with that answer and you give it. Because your resume, in your resume, your project was presented and represented very, very well. And I wanted to understand a little more about your project, so I asked you that question. But if your project is not written very, very well, and if I don't find your resume very interesting, I might ask you a question like this. Aerodynamically, bumblebee cannot fly, given their body structures, wings, and other shortcomings, but they do fly. How? As a student, which question would you like to answer between the two? And very frankly, the choice is in your hands. The choice is not in the recruiter's hand. Because your resume was not magnetic enough for me to ask you from your resume, I wandered to the whole world and I found a bumblebee and I asked you a question and you got stung by that bumblebee. But if you see, this happened because you didn't attract me in your resume. So make your resume a master class resume, and then with these frameworks, your interview experience will be a very simple and a very straightforward experience. But most importantly, that I think that I want you to know is, all these things will not happen if you don't practice. You have to practice very, very well. You have to ace these frameworks to have a fantastic experience. So if you see, it's basically a 3-step process. Step number 1, have a fantastic resume ready. Step number 2, know all these frameworks. And step number 3, practice them very, very well. On the day of the interview, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. The algebra of resume for a good equation in interview. LHS is equals to RHS. We are all engineers. We tend to understand things which are mathematical by nature, because if it is mathematical, it is solvable. And if it is solvable, then we will do it. So today in this presentation, we spoke about playing 11. We spoke about breadcrumbs. We spoke about 10-10. We spoke about ask a question. We spoke about 22 yards. Prepare them very, very well, because knowing them is one thing, and practicing on them and then acing an interview is what will make this session and everything else sensible to all of us. How do you practice? Write all your answers. Don't type them. Become old school. Make a notepad, make a diary. Write all your answers. Believe me, it will stay with you for the whole of your life. Even at night, 2 o'clock when you are asleep, I wake you up and ask you, then tell me something on yourself, you will be able to give me a very impressive answer and then go back to sleep. So write all the answers, it really helps. It might sound old school, but that's the way it is. But whether your interview will be an interview or an interrogation, it depends upon you. It depends upon your resume, it depends upon your preparation. Frankly, it's very much in your hands if you do it in the right manner. He can be there for the interview, or he can come. Choice is yours. With this, we have come to an end of the presentation. I would love to hear from you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with Cantilever Lab on LinkedIn, connect with us on Instagram. I would love to connect with you. If at all you need any help beyond this presentation also, you can always write me a chat on my LinkedIn. I will be late in responding, but I will respond for sure. With this, we have come to an end of this session. If you guys have any doubts, any queries, any concerns, I'll be happy to answer here.
Right. Thank you very much, Avnish, for this very insightful session. I hope all our audience found it very useful. So, guys, I think we can take up a few questions if you all have any. Avnish, if you can spare the time, that's okay, right?
I'm absolutely fine with that. Okay. So, we already have some questions here. For example, Sai Pawan has asked what to answer if they ask me what are your weaknesses. Now, a lot of time people tend to give answer that I have an attention to details. So that's a very, very positive one. But people have this habit of sugarcoating their strength and probably passing it on as a weakness. At one point of time, it used to work fine, but now because everybody is doing that, it looks very lame. So don't do that. Everybody in the world know everybody has a weakness. Myself, yourself, and the interviewer included. You can actually say, for example, when it comes to me, I don't like to do big calls. We should have a short and we should have very impactful and decisive calls. But a lot of times when big calls happen, they waste time and we don't reach a decision or a conclusion. To do that. So if you have a weakness, you might have a weakness working with numbers. You might have a weakness in operations. You were doing a project with a team of 3 and there was something happening here and there as far as operations are concerned. You can talk about it. You might have a weakness in speaking. I'm not very good at English. You might say that. That's absolutely fine. Okay. Shiv Modi, is it okay to ask your feedback or asking like how I did this interview? No, Shiv, don't ask, because if I'm your interviewer, only after you leave the room will I make my notes and I'll be able to write a feedback. On the face of you, I might say that you were fantastic. But does the feedback do any good to you if I don't select you? Your biggest feedback should be actually in selection and rejection, and that's it. The verbal feedback is just a lip service that is done by recruiter just on a human level. So don't ask, it's not a very good question to ask. How to make sure we don't sound overconfident or underconfident? How to find that perfect balance? Krishna, if I have an answer to that question, I will go to Himalayas right now, and then I'll go to Atlantic also, then I'll come back to Himalayas. Frankly, there is no formula to say that I'm overconfident or underconfident. There are a lot of things that you can do is, this happened with us when we were working with your seniors. We found some of them to be aggressive. In fact, not aggressive, I would say we found some of them to be offensive. And we told them that whether you like it or you don't like it, it's our job to give you the feedback, and this is offensive. Whether you change yourself or not, that's up to you. But definitely you should not be doing that for sure. So I personally was, for example, All India Rank 1, IIT, Sarvesh. Sarvesh was interviewed by me and I took an interview for around 2 hours, and it was one hell of an interview for him and for me also. I won't say that he was aggressive, he was overconfident, he was underconfident. He was just normal. He was just confident about a lot of answers, and for once he didn't know, he just said that he doesn't know. So very difficult to give you an answer to that question. How do we to make sure we don't sound overconfident, underconfident? Don't talk a lot, as I said. Maintain that 1 minute 45 seconds approach. That will help you. If I say sorry, I cannot say is it wrong? No, absolutely not. It's absolutely fine. can you talk about SOPs? Karthik, let's keep this question to the end. If at all we have time, then because SOPs in itself is a very, very big uh, thing to tackle. I'll speak about it maybe later. What is something that the interviewers look for in the resume while shortlisting for the interview, assuming that a similar panel would be taking the interview? Khyati, for example, if I am sitting for a finance interview, then I'll of course look for if you have done anything in finance. Or it could be a certificate, it could be internship, it could be project, it could be any event, if you have done anything in finance. Second that I look for is what kind of degree do you have, what kind of CPI do you have, what kind of trajectory your career had so far as your college is concerned. Because I tend to make a story at my end about Khyati Jain. If I see a spike in the story, or if I say a simple straight line that is going on, and I try to also be a little futuristic that where this straight line will lead to. Will she go for higher studies? Will she stay with us and all those things? So those things are done. I try to also see that what you have done beyond your academics. Are we looking at only academic people? Are we looking at a perfect, well balanced or well rounded people? I also try to give some brownie points over there. What to do when losing confidence during interview? Avdesh, if your interview is going downhill completely and you are getting it all wrong, it's if you can somehow bring the interviewer to a point where you want him to come. Now that can be done using breadcrumbs, and if that's not working, then let's have the brute approach. Sir, can I talk to you about my internship? Sir, I would like to speak a little bit about my project. If he allows or if she allows you, then when you talk about it, probably you will have your confidence back, or probably it's on its way back, and that probably is also your way back in the interview. So either have breadcrumbs to pull the interview towards a question you want him or her to ask, or have a brute approach. Sir, I would like to talk about it. Can I do this? If I ask the interviewer what are the weak parts of the company, is it fine? Why do you have to ask this? Why can't our life be simple? Amazon or Apple is $1 trillion company, and you are asking me what are the weak parts. Why do I have to tell you? I don't have to answer this question, Deep. So I'm being very candid with you, Sai Pawan. Why do you have to ask about what are the weak parts of the company in the first place in an interview, or an internship, or an entry level position? If you're applying for a CFO or CEO role, you might ask this question because you want to know what you need to tackle. But you don't have to ask this question for an internship or an entry level position. Don't complicate things. Keep life simple because life is supposed to be simple. The way we are born, the way we grow up, the way we die, it's a very, very simple approach that happens to it. But we tend to complicate things by, asking this question. So I don't think, Pawan, you should be asking them. Is there an indication which the interviewer gives which wants that we have been speaking for too long and should wind up, or should we just keep a check on the clock? No, you should not keep a check on the clock. It's the interviewer's job. Interviewer is not seeking your time, Khyati. You are seeking the interviewer's time. So he or she will be able to tell you. If at all there is a red flag that needs to be raised, it will be raised. If you are speaking too long or too much, it will be done. But typically, people tend to paint very long stories. Don't do that. I have always hated those people who never gave me an answer straight on my face. They created stories and I never understood anything. So give a straight answer and be confident about it. Are resumes shortlisted by application tracking system? Yes, resumes are shortlisted by ATS. What if one of my weakness might affect my chance of being selected? Should I mention that weakness when they ask me? Aditya, it all depends. For example, if it's a programming company, you're a bad programmer. Chances are bright, even if they don't ask you the weakness, you will not be selected. But if it's a team work and you are not a team player, then I don't think you'll be selected in any of the companies. So if they ask you, you can definitely mention it that this is something that you are slow or probably you are a little slippery on, but you are working towards it. But hiding a very, very big weakness probably would not be, by all probabilities, would not be possible as far as the interview is concerned. Should we be honest about any competitive exams we are preparing for alongside? Okay. So I'll tell you a simple answer to this is honesty is the best policy, but with a little bit of common sense. I will talk about competitive exams if they ask me. but I will not go out of my way and tell them that, okay, this is something that I'm doing. So honesty is the best policy with a little bit of common sense. Don't go and tell them that you are doing it, but if they ask you, and if you want to tell, you can tell it. Is CPI really a matter for selection in both companies? Yes, CPI does matter. Is it okay if we ask what are the recent things the company is working on? Debra, I think you should do the job and you should tell them. Sir, I've heard that Amazon is getting into education, and I see that they have launched their app and all. Would like to know a little more about it, if at all you know. If he or she knows, you have already passed on the information that they are doing something new that you are already aware of. I'm an MTech student. If question is asked related to 1 to 2 year gap, how to answer it? Does the year gap impact matter in selection? The year gap's answer is already in the resume, and the answer is IIT Bombay. You took the year gap because you wanted to crack the best college of the country, and you did that. So I think that year gap actually worked in your favor. And the fact that the interviewer is speaking to you is also because you are an IIT Bombay. So if you see, sir, you are speaking or you are asking me this question because I have graduated from a college for which I studied for a year, and everything is falling well for me. So I don't think that is a gap year. In fact, that year has brought me in a runway from which I can take off as far as my career is concerned. So this year gap actually is good for me. We have how to improve explanation skills. For condition like sometimes students fail to tell explain this project very well, although he has worked on it, giving excellent results. Well, as I said, I mean, for example, I'll tell you about myself. When I started Cantilever Labs in 2018, I've got a very interesting story. I wrote my resignation letter at IIT Bombay. On 3rd of December of 2016, I wrote the resignation letter at IIT Bombay. From there, I went to IIT Madras for recruitment on 4th, then to Guwahati, and on 7th, I was at IIT Kharagpur where I completed my resignation letter, came back to Hyderabad, gave it to the management on 8th of December. 8th of December 2016. I was the global head, so I was reporting straight to the chairman of the company. So apparently, I was headed back. I was given goods, perks, money, whatever, and then I again resigned in 2017, where they accepted my resignation. I left in 2018. When I started Cantilever Labs, one of the interesting things that happened with me was my son gave my name in his school, saying that my father will come and tell about his company. And I was suddenly talking to 8 years old, telling them about Cantilever Labs. A lot happened on that day for the preparation. During that 15 minutes of my time, with around 28 monkeys inside a classroom, Cantilever Labs took a new shape on that day. So a very good suggestion to you would be find a kid whom you can explain the project. If you don't bore him, if you don't irritate him, you're doing absolutely fine. What is ATS? How does it work? ATS is application tracking system. For example, if you're setting for a data science company, fractal analytics, 10,000 applications, 10,000 resumes are there. Of course, no one is reading those 10,000 resumes. If you are applying for Google, there are a billion resumes. If you're applying for Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, there are lakhs of resumes. No one is reading them. Your resume goes through an application tracking system. It's an algorithm which is supposed to pick up keywords. If the keywords are there in your resume, it gets shortlisted. If it's not there, it gets rejected. Now, your second question, Aryan, could be, what are those keywords? How do we know those keywords? So basically, for every industry, there is a set of keywords. We have created a very interesting resume toolkit at Cantilever Labs, which we give to students, for different industries, consulting, finance, data science, product development. One can use these kind of keywords in crafting their resume and make their resume ATS algorithm friendly. Are there any particular words, gestures, habit which can be frustrating for the interviewer and thus we should avoid? Yes, don't move around pens in your or pen or pencil in your hand. It irritates. Don't tap your legs. It irritates. It becomes when I say irritating, my concentration goes there, and then suddenly I lose you. So don't do all those things. And yeah, sit normal. I mean, be normal. Don't try to be somebody else in the interview round. Be normal. So that helps. I know it's a very, very silly answer when I say don't try to be something else, but I'm trying to tell you really what should be done. People have a habit of tapping on the table, so don't do that. And I've seen that this is happening, so don't do all those things. Rishabh, what does a company look for in ATS? How can we tweak? I just gave the answer, Rishabh. What is the general accepted smaller weakness of one can think what exactly to say? What is a general accepted weakness? I mean, there is nothing called this weakness is accepted and this is not accepted. Aryan, uh, you might be bad at communication. You might feel it's not accepted, but I'm fine. You are just an 18, 19-year-old kid who's yet to learn communication. It's absolutely fine. It all depends on the recruiter, the company, the role, and on that day. So it's very difficult to give you a very general answer that what is a general accepted weakness. For example, if you're not good at problem solving, that's a very big weakness for a data science consult or a product company. You will not be accepted over there. How to sell technical achievements to a non-core person? Uh, I'm guessing it will be there in your resume, and if you can bring it to that point via the breadcrumbs approach, that will be great. So that can be done, Akshay. If you can write me about your technical achievements, I'll be able to give you a more direct answer about it. That exactly what are the achievements. Tejas, I've got 6 years career. I was involved with sports. Esports have got community voted most valuable player prize in India. 96% win rate, 369 matches in India, 99.99 percentile team rating in the world. However, made a comeback in academics later with 230% increase in CPI to getting 9 plus SPI in 4 semesters. Also ended up having a research paper and conference poster competition in USA. Always confused